to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars, crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre.
As a kid in the 80s, I was crazy about Van Halen. Eddie's guitar tricks and Roth's insane frontman persona had me sold hook, line, and sinker. My friends and I all agreed on the true Van Halen awesomeness we all could see, but what really had me in was David Lee Roth. To me, there was nobody cooler, and all these years later, the lights are still on and the song plays on. David Lee Roth, the iconic frontman of Van Halen, has lived a life filled with glitz, glamour, and rock and roll. Born on October 10th, 1954 in Bloomington, Indiana, he was destined for greatness. From an early age, Roth was passionate about music and entertainment, and it wasn't long before he began pursuing a career in the industry. After leaving school, he is on record as stating in an interview, "I really just wanted to play rock and roll. I mean, it was either that or deal drugs." David Lee Roth first met the Van Halen brothers, Eddie and Alex, in the early 1970s when they were all playing music in the Los Angeles area. At the time, Roth was performing in a group called Red Ball Jet, while Eddie and Alex were playing in a band called Mammoth. The two bands frequently played shows together, and Roth and the Van Halen brothers soon struck up a friendship. According to various accounts, Roth was immediately impressed by Eddie's guitar playing, which was unlike anything he had ever heard before. In 1974, Mammoth decided to change their name to Van Halen, and they asked Roth to join the band as their lead vocalist. Roth accepted, and the band began to build a following in the LA club scene with their high-energy performances and innovative sound. Over the next several years, Van Halen honed their craft and developed a unique style that blended hard rock, heavy metal, and pop sensibilities. With Roth as their frontman, they became one of the biggest acts of the late 1970s and early 1980s, selling millions of records and playing sold-out shows around the world. As the band's frontman, Roth's electrifying stage presence and unique vocal style helped propel them to worldwide fame, and he quickly became one of the most recognizable faces in rock music. Over the years, Roth's career has seen its fair share of highs and lows. In addition to his work with Van Halen, he has released several solo albums, embarked on numerous tours, and even dabbled in acting and broadcasting. However, despite his many successes, he has also faced personal and professional challenges, including disputes with his bandmates and struggles with addiction. David Lee Roth's now infamous quarrels with the Van Halen brothers, guitarist Eddie Van Halen and drummer Alex Van Halen, was mainly related to creative and personal differences. As the band's frontman, Roth was known for his charismatic stage presence and flamboyant persona, which helped to make the band a massive success in the late 1970s and early 1980s. However, tensions between Roth and the Van Halen brothers began to rise as the band's success grew. According to various reports, Roth and the Van Halen brothers had different ideas about the direction the band should take musically, as well as issues related to money and control. Eddie's experimental interest in synthesizers and keyboards was a constant source of dispute because he seemed to prefer the minor chords, gravitating towards mod punk and English new wave. Of course, Roth's true north was rock and roll, flamboyance, and appealing to the most common denominator. All these years later, reading about this, I side with Roth on this. They had lightning in a bottle. The band was King Kong. It sure sounds like madness and arrogance to me to experiment with that lucrative legacy. I do, however, recognize a musician's need to explore, and Eddie's experimental stuff should have been separated as a solo offering apart from the main band. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know what you think in the comments below. One of the most dramatic do-or-die moments in Van Halen's career occurred in 1984, when the band was working on their album, 1984. The album was a departure from their previous work, featuring a more polished, radio-friendly sound that was intended to appeal to a broader audience. However, tensions were running high within the band during the recording process. Eddie Van Halen, who had become increasingly interested in his synthesizers and electronic music, was pushing for a more experimental sound. David Lee Roth, on the other hand, was resistant to these changes, insisting that the band stick to their tried-and-true formula of guitar-driven rock. At one point, the disagreement between the two became so intense that Eddie threatened to quit the band. He reportedly smashed a guitar in frustration and stormed out of the studio, leaving the rest of the band to wonder whether they would be able to complete the album without him. Ultimately, the band was able to resolve their differences and complete 1984, which went on to become one of their most successful albums. However, the incident highlighted the tensions that had been building within the band for some time, and would ultimately contribute to Roth's departure from the band the following year. In 1985, Roth left Van Halen to pursue a solo career himself, which was initially successful. However, Van Halen continued on without him, bringing in Sammy Hagar as their new frontman. Roth rejoined the band briefly in the early 2000s for a reunion tour, but tensions between him and the Van Halen brothers reportedly resurfaced, and he left the band once again. Despite the animosity that has existed between Roth and the Van Halen brothers at various points in their careers, they have also expressed appreciation for each other's talents and contributions to the band's legacy. In the wake of Eddie Van Halen's death in 2020, Roth posted a heartfelt tribute to his former bandmate on social media, saying that he was the MONSTAR Mozart of our generation. Despite these challenges, Roth's impact on the world of music and entertainment cannot be overstated. With his boundless energy, magnetic personality, and unwavering dedication to his craft, he has inspired generations of fans and musicians alike. And even though he may be getting older, he shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. As long as there is music to be made and fans to entertain, David Lee Roth will always be a rock and roll icon. Here are a few of his most well-known tracks. Jump. This 1984 hit was one of Van Halen's most successful songs, featuring Roth's distinctive vocals and Eddie Van Halen's iconic keyboard riff. California Girls. A cover of the classic Beach Boys song, Roth's 1985 version featured a fun, upbeat arrangement and became one of his biggest solo hits. Just Like Paradise. Released in 1988, this song was a commercial and critical success, showcasing Roth's talent for catchy hooks and playful lyrics. Panama. Another Van Halen classic. This 1984 track featured Roth's high-energy vocals and Eddie Van Halen's blistering guitar solos. Yankee Rose, a standout track from Roth's debut solo album Eat 'Em and Smile, this song features Roth's playful, tongue-in-cheek lyrics and a memorable guitar riff. After leaving Van Halen, Roth embarked on a solo career that included several successful albums and singles. His 1986 album Eat 'Em and Smile was particularly well received and contained popular tracks like Yankee Rose and Goin' Crazy. Throughout his career, Roth has also explored a number of other creative pursuits. He has dabbled in acting, appearing in films like Crazy from the Heat and Sacred Sin. He has also worked as a radio host and broadcaster, hosting shows on a variety of topics. Finally, he has even trained as an emergency medical technician, EMT, and has reportedly helped out in several emergencies over the years. Roth's tenure as the frontman of Van Halen is perhaps the most iconic aspect of his career. During this time, the band released numerous hit songs and albums, and Roth became known for his high-energy stage presence and unique vocal style. What really bugs me is that the Van Halens and Roth could not negate their differences at the time, which robbed the world of some really classic collaborations. The hit songs lost to those petty disagreements, the genius squandered, is heartbreaking. So here's to the Van Halen classics we have never heard. Here's to the squandered rock and roll.
Yeah, this is David. If you like the show, make it grow. Feed the monster with a like.
This is MONSTAR. Your subscription to my channel would be most appreciated. I release a new video every week. Please tap the like and subscribe buttons if you want more content like this.